So today is the what's known as the excursion day. When I was first coming to the watermill, I was told, "Oh, it's your day off, Mike. It's the tutor's day off." But I'm not so sure it is really. But I'm delighted to be able to go out on the excursion. There are always two things on offer. One is going to the Cinque Terre by train and spending the day there and returning by train. The ports, the 5 coastal ports along the western coastline, it's not that far from the watermill, but it's a train journey, all going to the town or city, I guess it is, of Lucca, which both venues are wonderful to go to. They're very different, each one, but by goodness me, Lucca is just a beautiful city. It's almost an art form in itself. In fact, I think certainly I haven't found them. It has probably fewer galleries and things than maybe a lot of other towns, but the actual town itself is gorgeous. And on the bit of paper or the information that I put out here, there are a couple of pictures here, and it has, as far as I'm aware, the only complete medieval, or was it Roman, wall around the city. And it's just wonderful to walk around. They all get a bicycle and cycle around it. And it was the birthplace of Puccini, and there's a statue of him there. It's just glorious. We for today's session, we're going to go into the amphitheater, which is pretty much in the center of Lucca, and this is, as the name suggests, a sort of an oval shape courtyard here, which is normally rammed full of coffee shops and restaurants and so forth, and wonderful shops around the outside. But on this particular day, there is a market taking place. The coffee shops are almost certainly still there, but you can't see them here. So we've got a flower market taking place in the amphitheater in Lucca. And there are one or two things I'd like to draw to your attention, which are really interesting. It's fascinating what happens to the shadows here, because we're not talking about buildings at right angles to each other. We're talking about buildings that go round in a oval shape here. And in this photograph, and the one we're using, the light is coming from the left as we look at it. Down here, the way I'm running with my finger, it's splashing onto the buildings on this side, splashing onto the umbrellas and stalls and so forth. You can see the strong shadows which are cast by the people walking around. And the shadow that I'd like to draw to your attention is this one, this amazing curve. You see it all the time in the sunshine there, because it's a really weird thing, but because the buildings are curved around. So this is going to be an interesting little drawing and painting for the shadows. And the buildings, they curve their way around ever so slightly. We've only got a small section of it here, but that's something that I'll be referring to as we go through this. I've mentioned on a number of occasions, I think, the value of being aware where the line of your eye is. And in this case, the photograph was taken with my eye line, the eye line somewhere along here, I would say. Now, how do I know that? Well, I know that because if things go away, they're going away, and we're dealing with perspective of linear perspective, things going away. If they are above your eye line, they're coming down in a line. So this roof up here, for instance, can you see it is coming down to the line, which is your eye line. And the higher up it is, the more extreme it is. If I come down to this roof line, can you see that it's a little more shallow, but it's still coming down? And if I look at all of the windows and the doors and everything, they all follow the frames of the windows and so they all follow that rule. So they're going like this till they come down to your eye level here. And so what we're seeing down here somewhere is almost horizontal. And the same applies over here as well. At its extreme, we can see this bed of flowers here, which is going away from us. And well, it's doing that. It's coming up to your eye level. Now, this is quite tricky, this whole business of perspective. And I'm only dealing with linear perspective here. On Friday, we won't have so many problems with this, but we will be having we'll be talking and dealing a little bit with atmospheric perspective. In other words, how things look when they're far away in terms of color. Hills getting bluer and that sort of thing. That's something that we'll be looking at in our little landscape we're doing. So I'm aware that this is roughly my eye level. And in general terms, that's a useful thing, whether you're dealing with buildings or tree lines or anything at all that is going away from you, then the principle is if it's above, it's coming down, and if it's below, it's coming up. And if something is absolutely in front of you, horizontal, probably something like that, well, then in that case, it remains horizontal. And lastly, whilst I'm just on this perspective thing, is that anything that's vertical is vertical whatever. That's assuming that the buildings have been built properly and they're not going to fall over. And of course, it all gets very complicated when you're dealing with natural forms like trees, and then even more complicated when you've got buildings and trees and whatever else it is on hills and slopes. But let's not worry about that just at the moment. So this is the composition. In fact, the picture that I sent out is this one. And I've only just realized that this picture that I'm showing you tells you a bit more about what's going on the side. So when you decide which way around you're going to have your paper, because what you've got here is a vertical sort of picture, then it would make a lot of sense to paint this vertically. And by all means, please do so. There is a reason why I'm not going to do that. My boss, my half boss, Bill Brecken, has asked if I could try and not do too many vertical pictures because he has a problem with relating that to the format when he puts the images out on the internet. So I'm going to compromise here a little bit. I'm going to draw on a landscape format, but I'm going to do something which is going to end up probably a little more square than anything else. And there's a good chance that I'm not going to I'm drawing here and I'm just not going to fill in the edges. If I could show you what I mean, here is a practice that I did for this when I was just thinking about way to go. I've done this in a sketchbook, and I think as I explained yesterday, I'm going to draw on paper today. Please, you draw on whatever you like. And also I'm going to use a pen today, mostly because we spent a bit of time on it yesterday and it just gives people a chance to have another practice. What we do for the rest of the week will all be pencil. But can you see how I've converted a vertical scene really and put it in here in my sketchbook by not worrying about what goes on here, just finishing the picture off there. So if you wanted to put a frame around or something, you'd probably be thinking of doing something like that and ignoring what goes on here. Also, I probably not put as much of the foreground in the flowers here and maybe not as much of the sky. So whatever you want to do, however you wish to do it, I'm just explaining to you that I'm doing it on this landscape format and the reasons that I'm doing it. It's going to, it's not a problem. We'll make it work whichever way. Okay, let's put this lot out of the way. As I said, I'm working on paper, which is this 300 gram. This paper is actually Saunders Waterford paper, and it's a rag content paper, good quality paper, and it's called cold press. So its surface is something between smooth and rough. I'm using a pen for my drawing today, which is one of the pens that a permanent pen that I used yesterday. And I'm going back to my paint palette that I've been using up until yesterday. And I've got this range of brushes here. I guess I will use all of them by the end of the week, but I'll show you which ones I'll use today.
I have a question from somebody. Seeing as you're using pen, would hot press be better?
You get a different mark. If you use pen, for instance, with a rough paper, it won't give you such a clear line. But maybe that's a good thing. It's sort of horses for courses. Okay. Yes, it is quite good using pen on hot press, but this is a compromise between the two. I often think. Right.
Mike, can I, because I'm just a beginner, can I do a light sketch in pencil and then pen over it?
That's thank you for mentioning that. I was reading through my notes here and I suggested that some people might like to do that. And a question that I was asked at the end of yesterday, I hope it seemed to be some confusion here. I'm very happy that you do that if you want to, and we'll give some extra time to make sure that it helps you doing that. I very rarely do that. I normally go straight into it, and I'm prepared to accept that there are going to be lines there that don't necessarily work, but the lines that I make, the searching lines, I call them, will all become part and parcel of the feel of the drawing. But if you are feeling more confident because you want to do some pencil marks first, absolutely fine, no worries at all with that. But I'm going to go straight in with pen. But I'll give time for you to get the drawing done. So let me.
Mike, what size pen, please?
This is a 0.6.
Thank you.
If I could find my 0.8, I'd use it, but I don't know where it is. Let's see if I can find it. I've got a 0.8.
Not to worry.
Oh yeah, I've got one here. Is there any ink left in it? Oh, I'll use the 0.8. I kind of like to use a thicker one, so I'll just switch to a 0.8. It's fine.
Can I just ask that's
right.
a permanent pen, is it? Permanent?
Yes, it's permanent. I'm using for this,
right.
So that when we bring the paint on, it's not going to smudge it. So I've got to think about how I'm going to, and you've got to think about how you're going to compose this in your format of paper. And as I've said, I think a number of times, I just find it really useful to get some sort of a steer as to what's roughly going to be the center. And roughly the center is going to be somewhere around the center of this larger umbrella. So that larger umbrella is going to be center or slightly off center, but what's above it and what's below it is roughly similar, and also what's to the left and the right is roughly similar, and that gives me some sort of a steer. And I'll give you a couple of other tips as to how we'll draw the buildings in and make sure we get them and the umbrella in relationship to each other. So I know I'm going to start up here somewhere. Just made a mark there, and I'll begin my drawing. Now, as you feel you want to get yours going, by all means do so. So I can feel that someone else is, I can feel that the way the ink's going on to this paper is different from how it went on to the sketchbook I did when I did a practice one, but that's fine. So we've got a.
Excuse me, Mike, could we see your reference photo while you're doing it?
All right, let me
Is that
see.
possible?
Of course,
What
let me.
about the eye level? Where are you going to put your eye level on this, on your picture that you're going to do now?
Pretty much where I said I sort of just above the shadow, I suspect, of the this bit of the umbrella. Yes, so along there, that sort of thing. Okay. I mean, it's just useful to have that in your head, and you don't. Increasingly, you don't need slavishly to follow that, but it is very useful to be aware of it. So I've got, let me see, I've got a building going down here. I can see down the side of it a little bit, get some sort of idea of the relationship between that and here. I'm probably going to add a little bit more.
Mike,
in.
perhaps you could put the photograph.
Oh,
onto
I'm
your
sorry,
palette.
someone else. I'm just wondering where
Put
to
it on top
that.
of
Let's
your
put that-
palette, maybe.
I'll move it around.
But perfect. Perfect.
Okay, something like
Thank
that. Okay, let's in fact, I'm going to do that, if I may, if you don't mind, because I think I'll just see it a bit better. Okay, right, just because I'm looking that way. So we're put in, there's a window here. I'm going to tend to put in less than I need. I can always come back and add some more. It's a curious mixture of three buildings. This there's roofs over the top. There's a window here, and come on down. I'm just vaguely aware this is going around in an oval, though you wouldn't really know it that much.
So when you draw with the pen, you kind of start little details instead of doing a big general. You start with one.
Yeah, yes,
One-
and also I'm happy to move around a little bit. Now, having just done that, I just want to do something here that might help you. Where does the bottom of this building come in relationship to my piece of paper? Let's just do that visually. It's going to come, say, something a bit like that, I would suggest. So we got that sort of, might even be a little bit lower. And so where am I roughly going to think I might be putting my umbrella? This big umbrella in the front, that would be really handy to say something about that. What about something like that? So my center of my picture is going to be, so maybe having done that helps me to relate other things to it. Maybe the umbrella should come down a bit more. No, I'm happy with that. We'll go with that and deal with it like that. So let's start putting in some other details. Someone, you said, do I do one big sweeping line? Well, it's quite useful maybe to do something like that and just make some marks about where some of the buildings are. This one here, verticals, remember that whatever you do, whatever problems perspective throws at you, the verticals tend not to be part of them. I'm going to just put some chimneys in here. You see that angle that I drew, that's coming down. And if I if I sort of make up another, I'm going to make up a few. I'm going to bring in some of these buildings that I didn't put in that picture I sent you. So why don't I put those there? And you can decide whether you want to put those in, but this will be a healthy reference. You can see there's a bit of a curve, which is occurring because of the curve that we've got naturally. These are chimneys in the oval of the amphitheatre. Let's put another, I don't think I'm going to go much further than that. Let's put another building up there. And right, so that's quite useful. We'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, I feel as if I haven't made this long enough. I'm going to make my umbrella come down here a bit more. So if you were doing this in pencil, first thing you'd do was go and grab your rubber, but I haven't got that opportunity here. So I'm just going to make it work without the rubber, and I'll lose it in all sorts of other things that are going on. Let's there's a window, a ledge there. So we can keep on adding bits of information. And I'm jumping around as I'm doing them here. If I can show you, because I've got a little bit more here, let's just have a look at dropping that down, something like that. I don't think I want to go any much further to the left than that. That will do. Let's go back to my picture. Right, so there is some sort of relationship between the umbrella and this. I still don't think I've got the umbrella right, so I'll just go ahead and I'll come back to it in a moment. Let's put in a few windows here. And you can see that I'm not going to spend too long drawing them, a little bit like we did I think it was our first trip in Pisa. Let's make these a bit longer, put another window in here. And if you don't get, these are more or less horizontal, we're just slightly going up. And if you don't get the window, I don't worry about getting the windows exactly as they are here. No one's going to go around checking how many windows you've put in. It's not that sort of a challenge. This let's put a couple of windows here. Some of these windows are white, an awful lot of them are green, and I think that's a feature I seem to remember of seeing this amphitheatre. Just how many windows are similar color, but certainly not all of them. Okay, we'll put a big one in here. They do vary in size. Put one here. Drop another one. Around the amphitheatre, there are, I think it's 4 entrances, and you can see them. You can see them. They're like this. You walk into the amphitheatre. I think it's 4 different, the cardinal points or whatever. They've probably got some sort of name which relates to a family. I don't know, but that one of them is just here. Okay, so that's something I'll put in a moment. That's quite useful, and it provides a nice dark shape to work. A lot of what's going on down here is full of people and milling around. So I'll come back to that in a moment. You can just see it in your photograph, and you can see it a bit better in this picture, that up in the foreground is the edge of one of these tents, stands, and that sort of breaks its way across here. So I'll just put that in. That's quite useful to see that, and that will be right up the front. So we got some sort of a post running there. That's going to be in the foreground, and then we've got the flowers here. So windows, do we have any others we want to pop in? The roof here, going to add a couple of chimneys. Okay, there's all sorts of stuff going here. So I'm hoping that you're drawing along now and putting in the information you got here. I mean, whether you get the windows right or not, does it matter? But if you can just sort of think about the general perspective of it, that will help. That will help more than anything else, really. Just to be aware of what's happening. You know, for instance, this little building here, there's a big window at the top. That angle is there because it's coming down to my eye level. Some sort of flower box there. Another big window. Flower box there. There are big windows. I've got a couple of windows here right at the top, and nice to put something in there. I think that those umbrellas are going to be all right. And this one that I shifted, well, we can lose that. Put another window there. You never know. Right, I'll come back to that. I'm just going to move on to here for a little bit and just make sure that I've got things. So there are a number of umbrellas that sort of go back in the distance here. And just be aware of this. The angle that the line of these stands is going at is actually going, because it's going away from us, it's coming up like that. Let's just see, it's going down. I've got it going down a little bit here. And the umbrellas get lost in that distance. We don't see a lot of what's going on here because we've got people milling around in the way. I'll put a couple of figures in a moment, but I just want to establish a bit more of what's going on here. We've got umbrellas that we can see underneath. There's an umbrella back here, which in your picture you can see. So let's just pop that in. And I'm going to put one in here, which I can see in this picture, although in the one I think I sent you, I can't see so much. So that's going to be something like that. A little bit more drawing that I can do there for the windows, but let's start thinking about where we're going to put the people in. So useful to think about where the base of the stands may be. It's going to be something like that. That's where they're putting the flowers, which spill out onto the. Okay, and now here's a little tip which you may already do, but I'm sure will be very useful. And it's in a situation where you are, say, in a marketplace, and you've got people milling around, the buzz and the noise and everything we spoke about yesterday. Yesterday, we decided to go quiet and do a bit of people watching. But today we've got lots of milling around, and I want to put some of these figures into the setting that we've got here. It's really useful to do that. It makes a place come alive, for one. You know, it's a working market. But the other very useful thing is it gives some sort of sense of scale to the picture that you're doing. Now, one of the things that I often do, if I've got the time, otherwise I'm just sort of going straight into it, is before I explain what I do, is just bear in mind that there are two things that are of notice in a market scene like this. One is that there's an awful lot of stuff here that doesn't move. The buildings, the umbrellas, the stands, the stalls, and the windows and all the other things, they're not moving. So if you, however long you sat there with your cup of coffee, or you sat in a corner with a sketchbook or an easel, that's not going to move. But what is moving, of course, are the people. And that can be quite daunting. If you don't want to go in and just remember or make it up, I find it's really helpful just to take a series of photographs on your phone or on your camera or whatever you have, and several photographs of the people moving on. There will be no 2 points where everyone's in exactly the same position. And although yesterday we spoke about looking at people who are standing still, or groups of people, or someone looking at their phone, whatever, here a lot of people are milling around. So if you take a number of photographs, then when you're working through your drawing and your painting, you can look at the pictures you've taken and you can see the figures that are moving around. And if you do only one thing, this would be the most useful thing. Let's take this fella here. If you look at your pictures and you realize that his head is roughly about something that his head is sort of roughly at the top of it is in line with sort of this part of the umbrella, and his feet are down here. Let me just make a mark here. So I could put him in something like there, and I put his feet in down here. So somewhere between that and that, this guy is going to be walking. If you say take this lady here, which you haven't got in your picture, but we could add, she's much closer to you. Interestingly enough, her head is more or less or just below the line of the guy's head. But look where her legs come. They come down here. So when you're making your drawing, if you want to put her in, I'll put her in later, she's going to be somewhere between these 2 points, whereas he is somewhere between these points. And as other people are here, they're getting smaller and smaller. And having this reference of the pictures on your camera, which you're looking at, that's really helpful. So sitting down, drawing the things that aren't going to move, as I've been doing here, is great. And then relating them to the things that are moving is quite useful. So let's put this fella in, and I'll draw him as I see him here. And knowing that he's going to fit into this sort of area, he's walking away, and he's, let's just see, he's head there, and his weight is on his back foot here, and he's just got his leg bent a little bit like that. He's carrying a bag. Let's give him a bag of some kind. So you can see I put him in there, and I'll put another figure in here, say something like these two girls. They're a bit further away. They're probably a little bit smaller than him, but that doesn't matter too much. And so don't go too big on the heads. They are going to be something between here and here. Okay, so let's just put them in. They're walking. Again, we'll just give them the same sort of something like that. So that's something of the scale which might be quite useful as you go along. So whether you're going to use these figures in here or you're going to make them up, and in future, if you're sitting doing a drawing like that, I think using the camera, give me a bag as well, using the camera can be quite useful. So let's move on here. I'll put another figure next to this guy. They're walking together. This is a little bit shorter. Don't make too much of the legs. Don't make them too chunky. There's a couple of people walking there. I'll put this fella in the bicycle, shall I? So where is he? His head comes somewhere like that, and his legs are, he's just a little bit further away than these guys. So let's have him now. He's sort of hunched up over his bike a little bit. So I quite like him because he's got a red jacket on. We might be able to make use of that. Let's just see if, and what's he doing or she doing? They're walking with the bike. So you've got, and they've got a sort of bicycle here. If you want to put the bike, if you don't feel happy about putting the bike in, I'll put the bike in. Draw the bike in here. The rear wheels get lost somehow. What's happening here? So there's someone with a bike, and then there are lots of little figures back here, which are obviously going to be much smaller. And I'm just sort of. I spoke the other day about when the basic sort of human figure is that sort of shape, didn't I? It's a bit like that. Well, we'll put a few of those sorts of shapes in here, and they'll come into the painting maybe a little bit later on. So I've got down roughly to the base of where these buildings are. So these are much smaller figures. They're getting bigger as they come along, getting bigger here, and I think I'll put a larger figure in here, but I'll do that in a moment. Let's just see if I want to. In fact, you're underneath this umbrella. There are lots of other little umbrellas. So, and there's lots of things happening with the flower stalls. We don't need to worry about that too much. Let's just see if I want to do anything else here under this one. Right, come back and do something with my windows again. Let's put a window in here.
Mike, would you consider just doing maybe a little lesson on figures, like a little?
Yes, it's always good to do that. Again, rather like the last question that was mentioned, that this might be something which would make a good one-off session, Lois. At some stage as we move on. Thank you for that. Right. So you can see the importance in just being aware of the angles that these things go at. I mean, right down here, everything is, if I put a doorway here, it's virtually vertical. Can you see that? Horizontal rather, there. But if I go up a bit, it's just ever so slightly. Let's just put a couple of windows in here. Often when I am surprised so many shutters are open with the sunlight shining straight at them. They often run around and shut them to keep the sun out. So I don't want to get too bogged down over here too much. I may not even put much in here. So let's just go back here. I'm going to put that wonderful arch door in here somewhere. So let's see where we'll put that. Something like that. And I'll come into it and put a window over the top. And if in doubt, you can just put electrical wires, plumbing. You can add all that little bit later on just to give the thing the most amazing patina. Right, I think I'll put a figure in here just to balance it off, and then some flowers in the store. Let's put the flowers in and see where we go with that. So there is some sort of a pot hanging here. It's got flowers on, which is quite nice because we can throw some color in up here. You can see something like that, and that runs down to a stall here. So there are baskets. Wonderful array of flowers. They seem to have sort of put them in some sort of order. So I just want to suggest that we've got some sort of a stall going that way with flowers in different colors. I'm not quite sure. And you can see much more in this picture that they've all got labels on them, prices. And that doesn't come out very well on the picture I sent you. So if I put that there for a bit, that's quite nice because that's something, a bit of contrast in the foreground is great. I think exactly where I take these flowers, I want to put a figure in here. So let's think about this lady. Or do I have someone walking towards me? So I know I'm going to have that figure about that high and coming down here somewhere. Okay, so let's just have someone walking towards me. They've got a, don't want to make their head too big. They've got slightly sloped shoulders as they're heading my direction. And blade comes down here. Maybe they're carrying some sort of a bag. Don't make the head too big. So I've just, if you think about a stick figure, you've got that. That's what it is. I'll rub that out now, but sort of made that up. Some figure. I wanted something in the foreground. And that means that things behind this figure there's all sorts going on here. I might put a window up here. These are little balconies, and they'll be casting shadows, so they're quite useful to help give the feeling of the sunshine that's shining down. Anything else? Let's just see, is there any other? Let's put a few more chimney pots here. We can add other little details. So we've got this foreground here is a big, right, that's probably almost the closest thing apart from here. There's a big side of an umbrella stall, and then we've got another one here, which probably comes something like that. We could pop a couple little figures in maybe behind the stalls here. There's a figure there. I'm just trying to get the scale, the relative scale for them, and let's put someone here. Right, there's a lot of drawing we've done here, so I'd like to give you time to do that because I want to try and touch the paint in much more quickly than I've done the drawing. I wonder how you're all getting on. Remember the sun, when we do it, the sun's coming down here. It's shining on these buildings. Where you put the windows exactly, it really doesn't matter greatly, but just try and be aware of something of the perspective. So that they don't, because if they're jumping all over the place, something of the perspective. It's tricky because it's a curved building going around there. You may well not have drawn as far out as I've drawn here. I've got flowers breaking across here, and I'm going to put a few more people down here just walking about. So there's
Could you bring the photograph back in view, please, Mike? that you're
Okay.
working on?
So let's juggle that. I'll put both the photographs there if you do want to get any more information. Okay. See how that goes, something like that. Yeah, I think I'll put a few people here because there's quite a crowd come to this flower market. They're here. And you see I'm treating them almost like that little sort of peg, triangular peg thing just at this stage, and not necessarily trying to get too many features in them at all. Just want the sense that there are people milling around here. I'll put some, right. That's quite a lot of drawing there. So lots of these shutters everywhere. Right. So I'm not going to do any more drawing on that now, chaps. I'll let you carry on with your drawing, putting in as little or as much as you want at this stage. Give you time to catch up. Okay, so we're into the wash here. I'm going to try and treat this as much as if I were out there in Lucca and needing to do a fairly quick painting. As this, I've really sort of indulged myself, if you like, making this drawing, and now I want to try and speed up and make the painting so that I get the I can respond to the light that's splashing around. So we're looking at the second step, which is washes and so forth, and I'm going to work the sky up the top here, and when I've done that, that will probably be it. Hopefully I won't do any more to that, and then I'm going to put in some of the warmth of the colors here, they are all of this sort of yellow, sienna-ish type of color, but they vary. I mean, the sun makes them vary, of course, but they're mostly the same. They're mostly roughly the same. Some are older than others, I think, just as a lot of the shutters are the same in this one. So let's come across here a bit. Yeah, everyone see that, I hope. Sky. Right. I could use, I reckon, straight out of the pot, I could use cobalt, or I could use ultramarine. It's in the photograph. It's a really nice flat sky. I think I think I'll use ultramarine. It's a warm, slightly warmer than cobalt, but that doesn't matter. And I'm going to take that fairly flatly around the sky areas, working my way around the buildings, the chimney pots, leaving little gaps.
Which blue is that, please?
Ultramarine I'm using for this.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
take it here. And we're sort of looking flat onto this. So quite often it's quite useful to have your skies lighter and darker in different areas. So I'm going to just keep this pretty flat, something like that. But I'll make it just a little bit darker, I think. Take in some stronger paint. Leave gaps for wind chimneys and all sorts of things like that. There we are. Let's let that paint itself now, and let's put something on the buildings. Incidentally, I'm going to leave the some areas. I'm going to leave white. The umbrellas, all the umbrellas that we see here. I'll leave white spaces where you've got sort of white framework in the windows, and particularly where the light is shining on them. So some of these ones I'm pointing to here. Let's look in the bigger picture. Some of these ones I'm pointing to here are really catching the light, and I'll leave those. I can paint in the darker areas for where you've got dark bits in it, and I might leave some sort of light, the paper here, just to allow me to have some light in the foreground. So when I move around that, let's see if I can remember to do just that. Right, the color I'll use, as I have used before, will be, I'll go to my gamboge. Oh, so I'm going to use a warm color here. I could use some raw sienna, mix it with that a bit, but I just want it. And in fact, when I put this color down here, I may well go over bits of it and just add some extra color to it, so we get some sort of variety. So I've got down to my gamboge, and I've mixed some raw sienna with that. Let's just see what we do. Relax. In fact, whoops, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start off with some raw sienna. just the raw sienna. And then I'm going to come in with that color. Just put some raw sienna down over. I want some light reflected back from those windows, just a little bit. I'm going to leave out the umbrellas. Come on down here. This can go over so much the rest of it. Not a problem. Yeah. So I decided, I just changed my mind a little bit too. Now I was talking about these windows, so let's just slow down a bit and have some of these windows.
I'm sorry, Mike. I've lost you with the colour again. Is that raw sienna or is it gambo?
Just raw sienna at the moment. I'm just popping that in over much of it down to the down to the base there. And in fact, I'm going to take some of that much more thinly and put that over pretty much everything I've got here. Just umbrellas. The things that I want white are going to be, can go over the people. It's the umbrellas that I want to just keep showing white. Yeah, leave some of that white here and so forth. And I've got a rag here, so I'm going to take some of that color out of these buildings where the light is really shining down on it here before it dries. And using a strong color, go back to a bit of gambos that I did speak of here. I might just put a little bit of red in with it. Yeah, I'm going to put something here so that we don't have all the same colors buildings. Let's just put something a bit there. Just vary that a little bit. I've left little patches here for the windows that I spoke of. I'm going to drop in. Shall I do that now? No, I won't do that now. I think I'm just going to just do that. It's just keeping it quite light at the moment. Just vary it a little bit. Yeah, we're going to come in with other colors, roofs, flowers, shutters and all that sort of stuff, and then shadows with them. But hope that should be enough. It's very simple. We haven't done very much in this stage compared with all that drawing we've done. But there we are. It's a warm color. I've dropped in a little bit of extra on the raw sienna just to add a bit of intrigue here. But we can do that, more of that later on if we need to do so. But I think that's enough for the wash. I've left out the umbrellas and some of these windows. So we're moving now into the third step, which is putting color on here and so putting some shadows on here as well. I just need to dig something out. I'm not going to do anything to the sky. The sky's fine. Just leave that as it is. I'm probably going to go to my smaller mop brush here, and I'll do as much as I can with that. I think it goes to a nice point, and it also gives me a nice sort of wash. So let's work around this. I'm going to drop in various colors for the roof. You've got, do I need to have this photograph out for as I go along, I wonder? Or let me see. Yeah. I'll bring it out if someone wants it, but okay, I'm here. I'm looking at, let's start off with burnt sienna, a little bit of burnt sienna. It's a warm brown, and touch in a little bit of my more orangey red, which is a Windsor red in my case, and I think I'll add a bit of gamboge just to go a little bit more orangey. And let's pop in here using the point of my mop brush. I'm going to pop in some of these rooftops you can see up here. I'll go around and do that here, and then I'll probably turn my attention to some of the windows. Let's put a couple in here, because I often work vertically when I paint. I don't really often have a problem with smudging things, but I'm working flat here so that you can see what I'm doing, and so I have to be a little bit more careful. So we've got lots of rooftops we're seeing a little bit of here. Some of the chimneys might also be that sort of color. Let's so this is a relatively light color I put on here. It's not too dark, because when I put some shadow next to it and so forth, I want it to sing out with the sunlight that's on it. So you can always make it darker later, but so let's keep it relatively light. That would be the most useful thing. It's, any more? That's probably good enough for that just at the moment. Now, I spoke about these windows very helpfully being pretty much green all the way around, and so that will help me speed me through. I will keep them more or less green. So what green am I going to use? I could go to my convenience green, which is this sap green here, and then look at it and see what color I could use, or I could mix up a green. I'm inclined to go for the sap because that, if I were out there in the square, that's exactly what I'd be doing. But I could equally, let's just do it here to one side. If I didn't have that, I would get something like, say, the Aurelian. Let's do that over here. Put a bit of cobalt with it. What am I getting out of that? Is anything the same? Add a bit more, a little bit of lemon yellow. So I'm getting something very similar by a bit of Aurelian, a little bit of lemon yellow, and a bit of cobalt. So you can see why the laziness in me is happy to go for the convenience. That's why it's called convenience very much. So let's put something there, and that's too bright. I want to tone it down a bit. I can either add some more blue to it, or I can, we've spoken about this before, I can add the complementary or opposite color. To the way you work out what are complementary or opposite colors is that you just think about the three colors in the primary colors, red, yellow, blue, just simply. And if you mix yellow and blue together, you get a green. And when we talk about an opposite color, it means the color that's not in it. So the one color that isn't in it is red. So therefore, red is opposite to or complementary to green. But I don't want to go into a big deal with that. But if you mix complementaries together, you muddy the colors. So if I go for something that's a bit red, and I'll go for the burnt sienna. There's red in burnt sienna, and I bring it in here. Can you see I've just sort of grayed it down a little bit from the brightness that was there. So that's good, this convenience color. It allows me to go quickly to a color, and then I mix it with other colors. So let's put some of these in, and put them in really as quickly as you can. And not worrying about filling in exactly that space that you might have drawn. We'll go back to it. Let's make that a shutter there. So can you see I'm sort of dropping in the paint marks, but not necessarily being precise about them here. Okay, what have we got up here? There's a couple of shutters. This one's closed, maybe. Okay, as I say, it's quite convenient that you got these shutters here, which sort of halfway down they slot open. So let's just do that because they throw interesting shadows. And so I'll take this down to where the umbrellas are. Stay with this. I'm going to put yeah, it's amazing how they pretty much use the same colors. So I'm running around the painting. I'll leave that one. I'll put a couple of shutters there that can be different, and let's do another couple of shutters there. And it's quite good when they come up against the umbrellas because that helps to make the umbrellas stand out a bit more. We've got I'm going to add some of those shutters that go off at an angle there. I think we'll call that a day on those shutters just for a while. So I'm popping around now, throwing in colors. We'll let's pop in some window boxes and things like that. I don't want to make those too strong. I'll just pick up the window boxes tend to be all rather green here, but I'm going to just add a little bit more color to those. Just bring some up here. Something going on there. So at this stage, we've got color going. We could have done this in the first stage when we're doing the washes, but I feel I've got a little bit more control over it when I'm doing this. So something to do with the color that's going on elsewhere. Here we've got, this is a flower market after all, so we've got all sorts of wonderful flowers. So let's just drop in some colors that might be helpful to us. I'll start off with crimson, and I'm going to just, I'm using my brush in a fairly splodgy way, just pointing down with it here, and got some sort of colors there. So if we can have the overall feel of color in, let's put some yellows in. Yellows in here. My brush, I'm using it not with a point, but just splodging it and getting some pretty weird and wonderful marks coming out of it. Let's put some in here. Some color. Got some great color. I'll bring in something with more lemon yellow maybe in here. Well, you put whatever colors you want down. I'm just making some marks of colors. I'm going to drop some greens in, so I'll pick up a bit of my convenience, add a bit of lemon yellow to it, and let's just have some greenery. Yeah, some of this is going to be in shadow anyway, so we don't want to worry about it too much. We've got some greenery. Okay, so we're having lots of fun putting the flowers in the flower market, but nothing terribly precise at the moment. Let's make a lot of green back here where it goes around. And some of these colors we've been mixing, I think you can see that we're chucking colors around, which might be useful to us. What about these signs? Let's make something of those. And there's a sort of basket here, but whatever. And different stuff is going on. A lot of this is going to be lost in shadows, so don't worry about having lots of color here. It'd be nice to throw the shadows over it. Well, I'm going to put some mauve. I haven't used my mauve very much, and this still has a bit of mauve. Let's just put in some mauve here. I mentioned these flowers to you before. Entirely, we've got some in this photograph. You can see there's some up here. I've got a couple of flower pots.
Mike, how do you get mauved mix if you haven't got mauve colour?
Ultramarine blue and crimson will give you a mauve. Depending on whether you put more blue in or more red in as to how red or blue it will be. It's pretty much the same that I've used. It's a convenience color. It's another one of these convenience colors, which is quite nice just to have to throw in. More often than not, I use a convenience color and I mix something in with it, but it is a convenience color there. And now I'm going to just pop in some color underneath in the stalls and underneath a little bit, a lot of which is going to be in shadow. So let's just feel I need to put some blue in here. I don't know quite, that might be quite useful. A bit of blue. I've done, I think I've done a couple of market scenes on our standalone courses we've done before, and this is pretty much sort of kind of similar to what I was doing there. I was just sort of putting in colors which may or may not be of value to us. Let's just drop in some colors which could be people's shirts. Talking about people's shirts. I know I'll deal with him later. I'll deal with him when I do deal with the figures. So I'll just work around him for the moment. And so I've left the umbrellas still. I've left the people out for the moment. Why don't I, at this stage, just mix up a grey colour and put it down on these flagstones. So I think I've done this almost every day. Bit of cobalt blue, bit of crimson. Whoa, that's gone too red. So add a bit more blue and a little bit of raw sienna. Yeah, I think I'll just make that a bit bluer. And I don't want it to be too strong. And this is going to be my sort of courtyard, the as it comes closer to me, I might just leave little bits of light shining through there. Okay, we're getting on well with this. I just want to add a bit more color. It's a very different sort of market, this, from the market in Fibbizano, where you have lots of clothes hanging down and things like this. But I am going to just add some color of whatever it is, different things happening in the background. A lot of this, as you'll see, will be lost in a while. Let's okay, any more colors? Let's whilst
Ask
I'm
a
here.
question.
Of course.
On the left, there is some kind of a basket with flowers. What is that exactly?
Well, it's just a couple of hanging baskets there. I don't know if you can see it, and I could only just noticed it in this pic. Oh yes, I obviously have noticed it before in my practice one. You see, I just threw in a little bit of color up there. Something hanging there. It's mostly in the shadows, but I'm just having lots of color and things going on in the background underneath the awnings of the umbrellas, just to, and you'll see that I'll be making these umbrellas stand out quite a bit in the moment by adding blacks to them. But and whilst I'm here, I might pick up some slightly stronger, say for instance here, I might just pick up some slightly stronger colors. I hope you can see what I've done there. Just thrown a little bit of variety, tonal variety of what's going on there. Okay, am I at a stage now where I can put some shadow down and then come back and finish it off with the final stage? I think I am, but I'll just give it a few minutes for you to catch up at this stage. I'm going to add a little more going on here, all these sort of people in the distance, but that's going to be sort of different colors. It doesn't really matter. And just it's actually going to be mostly in shadow anyway, so I just want to have different things happening here. Right, so hopefully you got a feel there of colorful flowers. There isn't a specific type of flower that I've gone for here. I've just been interested in the colors. Okay, I'm going to move on now and talk about and paint the shadow area here, and also this infamous curve that you've got here. So I'm going to put shadow down wherever it's cast on the buildings, and I'm going to put shadow down wherever it's cast by the rooftops, the fronts of the roofs, wherever it's cast underneath the windows, the verandas. I just put some sort of shadow down there. I'm going to put some shadow in areas such as this side of the dark side of the umbrellas and so forth, and pop in shadows in other areas here, on this edge here, and so on, and then shadows that are cast by the people standing on the ground. But I'll come back and do the people at the end. Okay, so a mixture. I'm going to surprise no one that I'm going to use ultramarine blue and burnt umber. From ça, let's just get rid of this green. It's flooding over. Okay, there we go. So ultramarine blue. Oh, it's very wet at the moment. No, I don't need it as wet as that. And burnt sienna. It is wet. Okay, let's make that a bit stronger. And a bit more brown in it. Yeah, I think I put more water in than I normally put in to get going on.
So your painting should be pretty dry before you put your shadows in, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, it should be. It's not. I don't think it's as critical as the last time we dried it, but mine is dry here pretty well. I've just taken that shadow onto a piece of paper here, so you can get an idea of how dark I've made that, and I'm happy with that. I think that's going to be fine. If I wanted to get any darker, I can just add something a bit stronger. Let's just see how we go with that. It's like so. Okay, I'm working my way now. Shadows, I've got some windows up here which are reflecting, so I think I'll leave those a bit, some of them. Now this curve, which I might do and then work it, I'm going to take it around here, and it can catch one or two, do some interesting things with, let's just to see if I take it around here. And take it up to there. And you've got some odd things happening with that shadow where this can come on down here. All of this is in shadow down to here. All right, let's come on down to this bit. This is in shadow. There's a bit of light catch in this back here. There's a shadow underneath here. And some sort of a chimney stack there, so that's fine. There's a shadow under here which comes down, goes over the window. So if you've got a brush that holds a lot of water, this is really convenient. I'm going to put shadows underneath these window boxes. Let's just do something here and a couple of shadows here. This is where I've got these windows sticking out. And although it may not seem much at the moment, it will be quite good when we touch in some darker bits, which we'll come to in a moment. So let's put I'll leave those windows, I'll come back to them in a moment. So we've got shadows there. I'm not sure what's happening there. Shadow comes down here. All right, you get the idea as where I'm going around this lot. Quite sure what's happening here. What have I done there? Let's take that up to here. And let's put something on these umbrellas. Just something there. There.
You won't have to.
Having said I was going to use the little brush, I've ended up using the big brush for all of this. So if you can see how versatile it is here, you can bring some shadows being cast by these. I can just paint up the legs a little bit and just have the cast shadow. These are the light shadows. I'll add something a little bit darker a little later on. We've got shadows in this lady. Yeah. And I'm going to put various shadows now underneath the bits of the awnings that we see here. I've left the people out of it just for the moment. I'm going to I'll make these shadows a little bit stronger, I think, just so you can see them a bit better. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still using my big brush, so there we go. It's really versatile, isn't it? I can this archway into the amphitheater, I can just see a little bit through it, so I'll just put some smudges there so that it doesn't worry us too much. And let's put some shadow now cast onto, mix it. I need a little bit more, ever so darker, because we're a bit closer now. Let's just, and I'm going to put some shadow on that. I don't know what's going on here. It's but I do know that a lot of it's in shadow. We'll put a little bit of life to this. Let's put a shadow across there. When we come in and do our detail, I think this will make a little more sense. So we've got a shadow cast here, and something like that. And anywhere else would be useful to put some shadow in. You can see I'm sort of splodging shadows in the background there, and we'll make all that work when we come and put the distance in. Let's put some shadows down near the base of these flowers here a little bit. So they're not all completely flat. There, I think I'll run with that now. I'll run with that, leave that. So there's the people to do, there's details to do here, and that will be the last bit of our painting. Right, I'm going to move on now, because we need to do this and then give people time to wind it off. And I would like 5 minutes at the end. So let's do this as quick as possible. We need to put in some detail here, maybe bits you've forgotten or accents. In the main, these are going to be putting in dark bits to make the light shine even more so. And we've got the figures to deal with. So I definitely won't be using my big brush for this. Let's see how I get on with this mop. And I'll probably be using my rigger. But let's see how I get on. It's amazing what a fine line you can get with these brushes. So I'm going to mix up a dark color, strong paint, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and here I want it strong, not thin as I had it for the shadows I was putting in before, but really quite strong. And I can make it even stronger, as I think I've told you before, by adding some neutral tint into it here. So let's see. I'll start off with my rigger, and I may well switch between the two. I've got these two paints here. So I'm going to put in, I like to use the word accents. So we're going to put in one or two little marks. Remember, the sun is coming this way, and these are often just marks which suggest that there's some darker areas. So and this lost and found business I've done, where you don't necessarily need to make every line an absolutely straight line. So let's just put in some information, bits and pieces here up in these windows. That's some of these are catching the light up there underneath and you can see how that it immediately makes the light sing out as you're doing this. So hopefully you can see that that's what's happening here. It's adding life to this sunlit scene. So I'm going to be doing that around a lot of this here, and I think the next time that, so you go ahead and do yours, and then what I do underneath these umbrellas and in the distance here will be something else a bit, and then I'll come in and do the figures in the foreground and anything else I need to do that. So I'm touching in. We did something a little bit like this in our first day in Pisa. This one's got is an open. A lot of these shutters are shut, so just one little line like that might tell you that the shutter's shut. No, this one here it's open, so I'm going to suggest ever so simply that it's got a window panes, just by doing something like that. Right, let's I'll work this way, so I'm not going to end up smudging things too much. And the rigger is great for this because you're just touching the paper lightly, so you're getting a variety of thin lines and thick lines. You know, there's a thick line, there's a thin line. This archway in here, let's just bring that down here. And in fact, if I take it around this figure, it will help to make, you see this figure stands out a little bit maybe there. All right, so this is actually, it's great fun doing this. I'll make this one a bit darker, I think, overall, and make one or two heads stand out, possibly. There we go. It's interesting when you come here and the shadows are being cast. We'll that's a window that's casting that shadow a little bit, and this one where it's coming into the strong light. So the dark contrasts are really working there. Let's just exaggerate that because it's up against a rooftop, and make that work a little better there. I'll work my way around on the windows, and I'll come back to the umbrellas. Let's see, what do we want to put in here? It's quite dark in here, so I think I'll make this a bit darker. It's accentuated, if anything. It's a dark little, maybe that's too dark. But it's sort of recessed in there a little bit. Right, there's all sorts of stuff going on there. I can't really work out what it is, but lots of little marks will suggest that there's a lot of darkness going on there. Let's put a shadow there under that bit of roof, and then something under these blinds are sticking up. And although they're in the shadow, there is a darkness behind them. Right, I'm running out of paint to have a little remix. Strong, I'm using strong colors here. If you use your colors too weak, you won't give it that impact that I'm trying to get here. Generally, when the light is coming this way, if this is an open window here, I'm going to have the darkest of my shadows down there, that way, and then behind a little bit there. So we can have hours of fun doing this sort of thing. It's amazing how just dropping in something dark like that and just making a few little marks will really accentuate the feeling of the sun that's on it. What do we got here? Let's take the shadow. Have a variety in the shadows. We put in the shadows already, but we're just adding accents to give them some vibrancy. There we are. So we got things happening here. Yeah, working my way around. We've just gone over the 2.5 hour mark, Lois, haven't we? So that's fine. I'll make this just a little bit darker. Just so not every shadow is exactly the same strength. So you don't need very much just to suggest the warmth, the heat of the light. These little marks here. Hopefully you'll see that nowhere have I tried to put very much detail in. I might add a bit more here because I've made this person's head rather big. We'll see how we'll handle that in a moment. Okay, what's going on up here? This will please Bill because I've done a pretty landscape type picture, and he'll think, well done. Yet he's asked me to try and keep away from the verticals, the portrait too much, but so we'll
You'll be
see.
fully appreciative, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Yeah, although I'm not sure I can please him totally on the last day. We'll see. But I'm trying. Right. Okay, that's done an awful lot of the windows, the shutters, the buildings in the background here. I'd just like to do some work now, something in the underneath the markets and everything, so you can see how we can bring that alive a little bit, and then I'll do the people, and then I'll just do whatever is needed here. Despite the fact we've run over 2.5 hours, I'm not going to rush this, Lewis. It's yeah, we've still got quite a few people here. Right, if you look at the photograph of what's going on in the actual working part of the market here, there's an awful lot of darks and things coming out of the darks. Now, I've dropped in various colors here, and I want to put in as little as I can just to make give you the feeling that we're looking into sort of dark areas under the umbrellas, but there's stuff going on there. So I'm going to stick with my color that I've mixed up here. Let's in fact, I'm going now to my slightly bigger brush, and I want to work my way from left to right. Let's just see wherever I can suggest there's some figures. I'll just let them work in here, and I'll go around this guy's arm. So I'm painting so that some of the colors that I put in here before just come out of the shadows. They don't necessarily tell you very much about what's going on in there, but there's a lot going on there. So let's just, and if I go around this person here a little bit, that helps that person to stand out. We'll see if I'll come back and do any more just to make that work. But again, there's a figure there, and I'm also suggesting by making this line that there are other umbrellas in there which are catching the light. Let's do something here. That little figure I've got in here, if I sweep a bit of a shadow over that, it'll be, that figure will be in the shadow, but it will still stand out a little bit. Let's just drop something a bit darker around it, like that. And you'll find you're just using a brush to try and get some suggestion of a busyness going on in this marketplace. Let's just nothing specific, but when you stand back, you think, ah, that's right. So my umbrellas are singing out now. And do these figures. I've just made, as I said, I've made this person's head a bit too big, so we'll see what we can do with that in a moment. These could be anything from sort of doorways, windows in the background, but let's not worry too much about the detail. But what they're providing us with is light and dark. And again, using a brush like this on its side, you'll get marks there which you kind of couldn't predict. Let's make that a bit darker. Right, and turn my attention to the people and do these as simply as I can. Let's pop in some skin, raw sienna, burnt sienna, something like that. That there are, which these are people walking away, arms. This person's coming towards us. And they can have trousers on. Right, so that's just made some sort of statement about their skin. Wanted to give this fellow a yellow hat, didn't I? So I don't know if it's going to show up. Probably won't show up. Let's give him a red. Now he's got the light coming onto him from this side, so I'm happy to leave little bits where the light is catching him, and I'll give him some blue pants using my paint quite thickly here, but I'll run again. I'll run that here, so it sort of mixes in a little bit with the red. And put some shadow on the side, and that can be. I'll draw his bike. You could leave that just the ink you might have used on that, but I'll just make something of a bike here, and I think the more I try to make it look like a bike, the Let's put some shadow down here. So it looks as if that person is turning around a bit. All right, that's enough for that. I might put a little highlight on that at some stage. Let's deal with these people here. Give this person a light blue top, some dark shorts or something, and I'll leave this person having a white top, so we'll just put some shadow in, maybe here, with darker shorts maybe. Okay, doing as little as we can to make these people work out. We'll put some shadow on her and something dark down here. And where they are reaching the ground, some sort of little bit of cast shadow. And this person up the front seems to look more like a man now than let's give that person a yellow top and some red trousers. Carrying something. Going back to my dark color here, and you see, I've made that person's head a lot smaller now because I had made it too big. I don't know how I can. What I'm going to have to do is maybe use a little bit of my Chinese white, my whites to make that work a little bit better. Okay, and just a few things in the front, and then we'll finish off with a little bit of white. Okay, we've got just finishing off this foreground, and I want to say as little as I can to let's get that, some of these labels showing up. That make them even darker. I'm going to bring in a little bit of neutral tint here. I'm just down to making sort of marks with my brush a little bit, and just hope that they will suggest that the light is catching this bit. Let's just make this a little bit more silhouetted here. It's catching there. Do I want to put a few little highlights in? I'll dry that and put those on, and then I'm finished. Maybe something around this person's head where I've just suggest we've got a light catching the bike head. Do I want it anywhere else? Maybe, as I say, just not too much with this. We'll do one last thing and just make a few marks here suggesting that we've got paving stones. And that is where I'm stopping now, abandoning it, having a cup of tea, seeing if I want to touch anything in, and then photograph it and send it to you, Lois.